Hi everyone, this is the community meeting for the descheduler project. Just a reminder to everyone, this meeting adheres to the code of conduct of Kubernetes community. In short, just be nice to each other. As the first agenda item, we have a topic from Philip discussing declarative node maintenance cap. And
Yeah, hi. So I don't know if you want to first discuss the basics of the cap or want to jump to the scheduling aspects straight away.
I think we can go over just the basics of the cap and keep it short, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Can you allow me to screen share?
Good question. Can you share now?
Let me try. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I will try to go quickly over the cap. So the reason why we are doing it, the declarative node maintenance, is that the current state of node maintenance has like multiple issues, like mainly for users who are not high available or require some special kind of migration of their pod. So the like not high available like applications which has only one pod, like when you are draining the node, we are like evicting them and basically deleting them, so they are not available for the time, and then the pod can be run on another node. This is the same issue with horizontal pod autoscaler, which can have also one pod as well, and also in applications that have some kind of storage or like some state that they want to keep and want to migrate from one node to another. So like the current solutions in the community are that, for example, you just use the PDB and entirely block the eviction of the pod. So this does work for these kind of applications. When you try to evict it, the eviction is stopped and the application can migrate. But this poses a problem to like system administrators that want to drain the node. So when they drain the node, they see that some kind of applications are not evicting and are still in place. So the system administrator has to override the application and has to know that it is safe to do so, which is not clear every time. So that's why we are introducing like a declarative node maintenance, which can better specify an intent to maintain a node, which means to either to shut it down or to evacuate the pods, so the software can be upgraded, or the hardware. And so like the basic API we have for now is like the node maintenance object, where you specify, so we are operating on a set of nodes, you specify a node selector, like what kind of pods, what kind of nodes should be put under the maintenance. And then we have the two toggles, which are cordon and drain, where you can specify different phases of the node maintenance, and then the status, which is not so important at the moment. So I would like to go and first compare the two approaches we have at the moment and which we are trying to implement. So the current approach here in the sequence diagram, we are using a kubectl drain, but this similar thing is used by other node autoscalers or other projects. So you basically first you cordon the node, so you make it unschedulable. Then you request all the pods which are running on the node, and you run this through some kubectl filters, which are filtering pods which we really don't want to evict, which can be, for example, the daemon set pods, which might be important for the node to be there until the last moment. And then we run the eviction call on each pod and expect the pod to disappear, which, as I said, is not always the case. And like when the cluster admin overrides this, the admin can also simply delete the pods. So it will just delete the pods and ungracefully, and the application does not have time to react. So like with the new approach, I don't know if you can see, I will try to put it bigger. Okay, so first, like when we run kubectl drain, we will create the node maintenance object. And by default, you can, like if you do want to use it automatically, you put cordon to true and drain to true. So and the node maintenance controller will go over its selector, and for each node it finds, it will set the spec unschedulable field to true, similar to what kubectl drain did. The kubectl drain waits for the unschedulable to be set, and then meanwhile the node maintenance controller does other things. And one important part is that we need to specify an intent for the pods to leave the node. And right now we are doing this by setting a special condition on the pod, which is called evacuation request, that we are requesting for this pod to be removed. And we do not actually know how it will be done, when it will be done, but we are just saying we don't want the pod to be there. And also this also skips the daemon set pods, and other filters can be put in place, how actually the selection logic, which pods should be evacuated, should look like. And then when we have a pod controller, which can be a deployment controller or any other controller in the system, it watches its pods, and once it sees the evacuation request condition on its own pods, it has to respond, and it responds by setting evacuation initiated condition on the pod to say that yes, I acknowledge this, and I'm trying to migrate or remove the pod from the node by my own means. And so we actually have some kind of a feedback here. Like this is only work in progress, so this can change. So the kubectl would wait for some time. Here we have 3 minutes, and it would wait for the evacuation initiated condition on the pods. And if it does not get it for some pods, it would fall back to the old behavior. Okay, so once the pod controller sets the evacuation initiated condition, then it will actually start migrating the pods. And with regards to the deployment controller, first we would like to use the max search field of deployments, where each deployment specifies that during a rollout, we can use an extra pod or pods to actually to be run above the application limit. So we would create these search pods on another node. Since we have set the unschedulable field, this will get done automatically. And then once these pods become available, we will delete the old pods. So once you commit to this evacuation by setting the evacuation initiated condition, you are expected to handle the entire thing yourself. So you are expected to know when the migration has completed and to remove the pod. So this shifts the responsibility to the pod controller or the actual owner of the application. And the kubectl, because we are not expecting for this to be available for all workloads, since everybody has everybody who is interested in this migration has to implement it themselves. Since this will take a long time before all of the workloads, basically not all of the workloads will support it. We have to fall back to the old behavior, and we filter out the pods which are evacuating, and use the old approach by evicting or deleting the rest of the pods. And and we are starting with the max search, but it can be used also with unavailable or with other. It can be implemented for other workloads as well. For example, the stateful sets or daemon sets, but this is not part of this cap and will have to be done separately and to take every aspect into consideration. And so, as you have noticed, this is there is a use case for descheduler, since we are replacing the eviction process with a custom process, which is using the pod conditions. This is actually just work in progress, but I expect something similar will be done, but this has to be also discussed with other people and with CKPI machinery. But the basic thing is that there will be another process to do the eviction, which will be sort of asynchronous. So the eviction, you're expecting the request to complete straight away. Here we are waiting for some time before it is accepted, and then it can take a really long time. Like for example, when you have a big storage on the node or some virtual machine with lots of memory, which is hot swapping on another node, it can take multiple hours before this pod is migrated. So yeah, so at the moment, these are the two conditions that could be interesting for the scheduler. And I can give back a microphone to you. And what do you think about this proposal and the way it could work?
One thing I didn't see you mention here, and before when we talk about this, I think it was one of the things that were discussed was the timeout, like a timeout for. Did you?
Yeah, so there is the timeout for accepting the request, but there is at the moment there is no timeout for we are expecting that after the evacuation is initiated, we are expecting the owning controller to handle everything, and
Okay.
and there is no timeout. But I guess it can be added in the future. But this is not so easy territory to get right. I also want to discuss with other people if we can have some kind of a readiness or some probe or something for actually seeing the evacuation is proceeding. So, but I don't know how these discussions will go. So at the moment it's just static. So you accept the evacuation and you expect it will happen eventually. But the implementation might change to have either timeout or some probe.
Okay.
So both those two new conditions, they will only have meaning if a node maintenance object is created, or will those conditions be interpreted even without the node maintenance object?
So like currently it is only made for the node maintenance, but I'm expecting that that it could be used by other processes as well, as for example the descheduler. So I suppose some of the controllers might look at the non-maintenance objects and only react to that occurrence, but we will try to, I think, we will try to advocate for like reacting to the evacuation request condition. So if you know your pod is special or and don't want to be killed immediately, then you should implement these response.
Yeah, like I see two use cases for this, and like the one is when a node is under maintenance or in the maintenance mode, which is the case we actually never took into account when designing the strategies probably. So that's a new one. And actually the other use case where we actually can set the condition, the evacuation initiated condition. So this is probably the one that we could be interested in the most, because like so far we treat every pod as a kettle, and like with this new condition, it might change to, as you mentioned, to give us some better treatment for those special pods.
Yeah, so in your case, it would be the evacuation request condition, which you could set.
Right, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, yes, you could set on the pod, and the controller will respond. Like, do you think it could play together with like the eviction part, like that? If it is possible for like a descheduler to wait for some time before it sees the evacuation initiated condition before it fallbacks to the eviction process.
We would need to change the implementation for sure, because like right now we do not care like if a pod gets evicted or not. We just send the eviction request, and if it goes fine, then it goes fine. If it doesn't, we don't care, and we just move on. But like there's no like retrying, and like the next eviction loop is like can be done in an hour, right? So what we could probably do is to go through all the pods, then set the evacuation request condition, and assume that this pod will eventually get evicted, and in the next round treat it basically the same. It was like probably.
Yeah, I mean, like when you set the evacuation request, like I guess you could observe like the last transition time of the condition, and like when you compare it next time, if you do not see since then, if you do not see the evacuation initiated condition, you can fall back to the eviction. But you would need to have a way to actually run the process for each pod after this time, I suppose.
Yeah, probably people just need to prioritize each pod that has this new condition set. Because like
I mean,
really,
like, because like you actually don't know like what kind of application supports this until you have received the evacuation initiated condition. So like you would have to wait for every pod to I don't know if like this is desirable for users of descheduler, or this would be some kind of an opt-in to have this like more safe evacuation instead of eviction.
Yeah, like we need to make sure that we avoid the case where we, in the first iteration of the descheduling cycle, we set this new condition to some pods, and in the other run we could set like this condition on a different set of pods, ultimately resulting in evicting twice as much pods instead of just the original amount of pods. So but like I can see how this can be useful in the cases where we just like are told to wait because like at least it probably we have no notion of special pods in the descheduler so far. So
yeah, actually
probably,
you can. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, yes. So like we'll either need to extend the design or find a way how to actually treat these special pods in a way that actually doesn't change how the deschedule works. Yep, that's all.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like with this approach, now you can also deschedule like applications which are under a PDB, and you do not see in the PDB status that it's possible to evict it, but the owner might decide that it's possible for them, but they just need to do special process. I have a actually in the CAP, I have a follow-up for the PDB object as well, where it could be like these evacuating pods could be considered in the status, so you could actually see it, but this is for future discussions. But yeah, it's like in summary, it's good to hear that it would be useful for you guys. I guess in like this in this first stage, I'm most interested if you are seeing some kind of feature or something that would be missing for a descheduler that we could add in the initial phase.
Right. Right now, we just use these eviction sub-resource to as a way to tell a pod to go away, and if we extend it with instead of calling the eviction sub-resource, we just set a pod condition. Then we need to be sure to define the expectations about a pod, and but I actually like this idea of a new condition. So we probably need to put our heads together and see if we can find a way how to use this new condition.
Yeah,
cool.
I think I had to think a bit more like about this, because right now the way that we deal with maintenance is just ask users to scale the scheduler down to 0 when the maintenance is happening, and then back to 1 when it's done. Because while you're doing it, you're just evicting everything. But yeah.
Yeah, actually, I have a section where it talks about the priority, like when multiple controllers want to evacuate the pod. So in this case, like when the evacuation is started by the non-maintenance controller, it would put itself as the reason of the condition as a non-maintenance. And if this scheduler sees this, it could ignore the pod because it sees I am not the reason for the evacuation, And likewise, if you start like a descheduling before the node maintenance, you can set a reason as a scheduler, and a node maintenance controller also wouldn't touch it. And there is also a case where you can interrupt the node maintenance even before the owning control has a chance to react. You can remove the condition and keep the pod alive. So if you would be in like the next in the queue to evacuate the pod, you would observe always the conditions, and if it is missing, you can safely set it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I want to like discuss this API with also the SIG API folks, because it might be useful. I'm not if it could be possible to have like a dedicated API for this on the pod object. Not sure if in the status or the pod or the spec, or but so it might not be the conditions in the end, but I expect something similar. Yeah.
Cool. Mike, do you have something to add?
No, yeah, I think it seems like a much broader. I was kind of wondering where the descheduler parts came in, listening to the start of this KEP. I haven't read a lot of the details of it, so I'm just kind of trying to glean the high level points. But yeah, I think it seems like something that we could work with.
Yeah. Cool. We can go to the
Thank you.
next. Thank you. Next topic then. I think we chatted about this also on Slack. Basically, we did this bumping of the hotel for 0.8, but we missed 27, 26. But in a way, I think we are not affected by the CVE itself, so it's not so critical, but it's also just a bump, so we could also just do it.
Yeah, so that's what I think I mentioned on Slack. The CV looks like it has to do with like if you have a metrics pipeline configured. I Googled around a little bit about it, and I saw, I think it was a Red Hat page that kind of went into a little bit more detail about what needs to happen for this CV to be hit. And one of those things was having a metrics pipeline. So I think since we're just using OTel for traces, that this doesn't totally hit us. But so if it's tough to backport the bump, I don't think it would be a critical change, but I see it doesn't hurt to bump your dependencies when you can.
Yeah, but I see you also added a topic about actually using hotel format.
Yeah.
Then we
So
would affect it. Yeah.
that does go into the next thing where if we did decide to start using autometrics, obviously that would make be part of this, but that's the kind of change that I think would take long enough that or just be low priority enough that this might not be an issue anymore, it might be outside of our maintenance window. So I could talk a little bit about that if you want to move on to the next thing, or if you still had stuff that you
Yeah,
want to
we
talk
can
about.
skip mine and go
jump
to
in.
yours and go to mine in the end. Yeah.
Sure. So this issue, I saw someone opened it like last week, and the basic issue is trying to scrape Prometheus metrics from a cron job that only lives for, short enough that it's outside of the Prometheus scrape window. So if you're scraping like every 5 seconds or whatever, and this only takes a second to run. And that's not just a descheduler issue. I was actually working on like the same kind of problem for in serverless, just in general workloads that are only up for as long as it takes the server request. And so what we found in that is that ideally the best way to solve this problem is to have some sort of push metrics where the the descheduler in this case would be exporting its metrics out instead of just exposing the Prometheus endpoint and waiting to be scraped by Prometheus. And when that happens, the descheduler, like when the cron job finishes or when it dies, that pipeline or all the metrics that are in memory get flushed out. So you don't have to worry about missing them. They get sent off to whatever collection agent you have, as Prometheus agent or something. I think I saw Sean commented that we could use the Prometheus push gateway for this too in the issue. I don't know too much about that, so that could be another option. But I just put 2 ways that we could switch to using open telemetry metrics if we wanted to, without breaking the current Prometheus metrics scraping. That's kind of a big part of OTel, is this like seamless transition without breaking people. You can use the push metrics and also expose the Prometheus endpoint metrics, so that to most users, if they didn't want to use the OTel, it wouldn't even be it would be a no op, no overhead, but they'd still be able to have their endpoint configured. So I linked to those 2 options there. Maybe we can talk about it like offline in the issue, or if anyone has any suggestions here, but that's kind of the quick rundown. Is I think it would be worth considering the open telemetry metrics or some sort of push for reasons like this.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I have to have a look for the issue. Is this issue old? No, last week. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, the 2 different ways that we could do it is using either the Prometheus OTel bridge, which sticks into our current Prometheus instrumentation, I believe. So that's like the quick like transition way to get to OTel eventually. Or if we want to take the undertaking right away and totally re-instrument using OpenTelemetry libraries instead of Prometheus libraries, and then you have basically a Prometheus exporter, which is kind of the same idea as the bridge, but the opposite, where that sticks into your OpenTelemetry libraries and keeps that Prometheus endpoint accessible. So you can either drop in a little bit of OTel into the Prometheus libraries, or switch to using the OTel libraries and drop in a little bit of Prometheus. But the end result is the same.
Cool.
Long term, you want to do the latter, but depending on how much time we want to invest.
Cool. Yeah, I think, my opinion, we go with the latter. But yeah, don't know what you guys think.
Are there any other solutions or operands which might actually demonstrate like how useful this is? Well, I mean, like, to avoid like making any uneducated decision, it would probably be better to find an already existing project which does this, and just ask them what is their experience. And
yeah, I mean, it would be worth looking around. I don't know any off the top of my head. It's kind of just any project that would be running as a cron job or like a short-lived agent. And I think it's kind of a more recent issue that more people are starting to run into more as push metrics is becoming bigger. So I don't have any examples off the top of my head. But there's sample code in each of the ones that I linked to, which I know isn't the best, but kind of shows it's kind of just a drop-in solution. It doesn't really have much of an external effect on any users, or so there isn't too much risk to doing it the wrong way. It's kind of just an architectural choice.
Yeah, the other thing I just thought about is like, do we want to support the cron job deployment strategy, like the deployment approach, forever? Like, I feel like most of the people are kind of switching to the deployment approach for the descheduler. And also when we think about that, those proposals of like having more of a reconciliation feel for it with informers and everything like that, I think that cron job thing starts to make less sense. Don't know if I'm mistaken here.
Yeah, I think you're making a good point. I'm sure that there's use cases that people have for cron jobs. I think in this issue, the poster touched on why they are using cron job instead of a deployment. It could be like a memory issue or something. But yeah, a lot of it does feel like cron job is kind of an afterthought at this point in how we're approaching descheduler. And a lot of the steps that we're taking are kind of growing it more towards that controller, something that you run as a daemon set or something that is long lived on your node.
Yeah, especially now, like if we would implement some changes to like adhere to this new change of node maintenance, it's also like the cron job doesn't make sense, I guess.
So that could be, definitely something that we think about. Maybe broader term, we just kind of start to step away and deprecate the cron job approach and evolve this into a bigger controller.
The
Yeah.
part mentions that there are use cases to run the deschedule only during nighttime, which should be actually quite easy to implement in the code, right? That we just instead of the interval, we just support like additional options and
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's what it was.
Yeah,
That
they
makes
could
sense.
just implement a cron job which just scales the deployment of the descheduler each day.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good topic. I think that that it's not combined with the idea of using like some sort of push metric. It's not tied to that. You could still do
Yeah.
both, like switch us to that, but it definitely puts a new perspective on the question.
Yeah, I just thought of it, but I agree. We should discuss the metric thing separately as well. It makes sense because, yeah, I want to understand a bit better the two approaches that you shared, and I think we can use the issue to discuss this. And
Yep.
then the cron job one, I think it would be, I don't know, on the other issues that we have about the more controller-like feel for the descheduler. We can discuss it there.
I think it's totally worth opening a separate issue entirely to track, like, raise the question of, do we want to deprecate cron job support? And then just list out the use cases, how we would address those in a deployment only approach, pros and cons. I think it would make it a lot simpler to use the deschedule. It'd be a lot clearer of, okay, there's one way to run it.
Yeah.
Then you have a lot less questions.
Makes sense. I can open an issue later.
Yeah.
Do we have any other HM items for this?
how do you feel about completing the scheduling framework?
I mean, for this topic.
Oh, yeah, that's a new one. Maybe for the next time, actually.
I lost the up here. Okay. The other topic I had was like, should we change the cadence of this meeting? Because I think some of our availability changed. And the first change that we did is like we made it once a month at this time, on last Tuesday or something like that. And it's still not great for you, I think, Mike. This time?
This time is fine for me. It's right in the middle of the day. It does overlap with another meeting that I have. Just at, by half an hour. If we started at half an hour later, I would be fine on Tuesdays.
Oh, I was actually going to suggest earlier one. Like alternating times, maybe bi-weekly alternating times. And then one at this time, it can be a bit later maybe. And then another one like earlier. Don't know.
Yeah, how much earlier are you thinking? Like half hour, 2 hours?
Thinking like 2 p.m. Central European time. That's like very, very early for you again, I guess.
Central European, not Central. It's 8 a.m. That would be tough for me too.
Yeah,
I
maybe
could do
3,
like
9 a.m.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
Then we
do
can
that.
alternate, like, to me, I think the early one would be better. And we can still keep one later, like this one. What do you think, Ian? And alternating bi-weekly?
Yeah, that's fine. Like, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. Or it could be like even 10 a.m. of max time. That works for me as well.
I mean, the 9 a.m., 10 a.m., both of
Yeah.
those are fine for me if we
Yeah.
wanted to just keep it at that. I don't know if we get a lot of, we don't really get a lot of West Coast people joining these. So West Coast US.
Okay, I'll start a thread again, because last time I started it, I think it was like kind of starting vacations for people, so people didn't see the thread. So I started again and we can discuss and then we can agree on a new time. And if it doesn't work, we can merge again with the other meeting. But yeah, cool. And Jan, so I was asking about the action points for the open telemetry thing, but you want to add another topic for the descheduler framework?
Yeah, but like probably for the next time, because it's you should probably take a look where we are and what is still missing to complete the current first version of the framework, and then suggest like what to do next to build a roadmap again, and to probably document it and I don't know, demonstrate a way how to build your own descheduling plugin and see how this gets accepted by the community and everyone else.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that documentation on how to do it, I've seen a lot more like messages in Slack channels and like just random Slack channels of people asking kind of how to write something that's like the descheduler, but they need like their own weird node affinity checks or, so I think if we could come up with, we have the generic approach, it's just not documented on how to do it. That'd be pretty helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's maybe async from the meeting, or like have another meeting with maintainers and discuss that. And yeah, I'll start a thread about the meeting cadence. Okay, so we went a bit over time. Thank you all for joining, and I see you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye, guys.